The stars looked different from New Busan Colony. Taeho noticed this as he sat on the metal roof of his family's habitat unit, legs dangling over the edge. At 8 years old, he wasn't supposed to be up there, but his father was working late at the mining facility, and his mother was busy in her lab. No one would catch him tonight. The sky above the colony dome was clear, revealing a tapestry of stars that seemed both familiar and alien. New Busan was humanity's farthest outpost, a small collection of prefabricated buildings and environmental domes on a planet that scientists had once called merely HD 985601c, but colonists now called home. "I wish someone would answer," Taeho whispered to the stars. He didn't expect a response. No one ever answered him. At school, the other children avoided him because he was strange. The adults were too busy making the colony work to pay attention to a quiet boy who asked too many questions about the stars. But tonight, something was different. As Taeho stared upward, he felt a strange sensation, like a soft hum in his bones rather than a sound in his ears. He sat up straight, suddenly alert. "Hello?" he called out, feeling foolish but unable to stop himself. The humming grew stronger. It wasn't painful, but it made his skin tingle. Taeho closed his eyes and tried to focus on the feeling. It seemed to have a pattern, almost like a song without words. When he opened his eyes again, the stars looked brighter, and for a moment, just a brief moment, he thought he saw something move between them. Something large, something impossible. "Taeho, what are you doing up there?" His mother's voice broke the spell. Hana stood below, hands on her hips, her research uniform still on from her shift at the xenobiology lab. "Coming down," he called back, scrambling to the ladder. The strange feeling faded as quickly as it had come. Hana's stern expression softened as her son climbed down. "You know it's dangerous up there. The edge seals aren't meant to be walked on." "I was careful," Taeho said, "and I saw something in the sky." His mother's eyebrow raised slightly. As a scientist, she never dismissed observations outright. "What did you see?" "I'm not sure," he admitted. "But I felt something too. Like a song in my head." Hana placed her hand on his forehead. "No fever. Are you feeling okay otherwise?" "I'm fine," he insisted. It wasn't scary. It was nice, she nodded slowly. "Let's get inside. Your father will be home soon and you need to be in bed." That night, Taeho dreamed of flying. Not in a ship or with wings, but as if his body simply knew how to move through space. He soared past stars and planets, feeling neither cold nor the lack of air. In his dream, he wasn't alone. Massive shapes moved alongside him, their bodies shimmering with light that shifted in complex patterns. He woke up with tears on his face, though he couldn't explain why he had been crying. At breakfast, his father Jun noticed his quiet mood. "Everything okay, son?" Taeho pushed his food around his plate. "Dad, do you think there are dragons in space?" Jun chuckled. "Dragons? Like from the old stories?" "Maybe not exactly like those," Taeho said. "But something big that can fly between stars." His father's smile was kind but dismissive. "The universe is full of strange things, but we haven't found space dragons yet." "Why do you ask?" Before Taeho could answer, his mother joined them, already dressed for work. "He saw something in the sky last night," she explained. "When he was sitting on the roof, which he knows is against the rules." "I felt something too," Taeho added quickly. "Like a song, but not with my ears." His parents exchanged a look that Taeho had seen before, concern mixed with confusion about how to handle their unusual child. "Maybe you can draw what you saw," Hana suggested. "I'd like to see it." Taeho nodded, grateful that at least his mother was taking him somewhat seriously. At school that day, Taeho couldn't focus on his lessons. The colony's education center was small, with only 20 children across all age groups. Their teacher, Mr. Do, was patient but firm as he tried to keep Taeho's attention on the history of Earth's expansion to the stars. "Taeho, can you tell us when the first colony outside our solar system was established?" Mr. Do asked, clearly hoping to pull the boy back to the present. 109, Taeho answered automatically. "Alpha Centauri B." Mr. Do nodded, satisfied, and continued the lesson. But Taeho's mind drifted again. He began to doodle in his notebook. Not the usual spaceships or colony buildings that boys his age drew, but strange, flowing patterns that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his memory. By the end of the school day, he had filled 3 pages with intricate designs. They weren't random scribbles. each pattern connected to the next in a way that felt important, though he couldn't explain why. "What's that?" asked Subin, one of the few kids who occasionally talked to Taiho. She peered over his shoulder at the drawings. "I'm not sure," he admitted. "I saw something last night, and these patterns remind me of it." Subin studied the page. "They look like the old symbols in my mom's research files. She studies ancient writing systems." Taiho perked up. "Really? Could I see them sometime?" "Maybe," Subin said with a shrug. "If you come over to play." It was the first time anyone had invited Taiho to their home. He smiled, suddenly feeling less alone. That evening, as Taiho helped his mother prepare dinner, he felt the strange humming again. This time it was stronger, making his hands shake slightly as he set plates on the table. "Mom," he said quietly. "It's happening again." Hana turned from the cooking unit. "What is, honey?" "The feeling. The song." He closed his eyes. "It's clearer now. Like it's trying to tell me something." Instead of dismissing him, Hana set down her cooking tools and knelt in front of her son. As a xenobiologist, she studied life forms on other planets. She had learned to keep an open mind. "Can you describe what you're feeling? Not what you think it is, but the actual sensation." Taiho concentrated. "It's like vibrations, but inside me. They have a pattern. And there are colors too, but I see them with my mind, not my eyes." Hana's scientific curiosity was fully engaged now. "When did this first start?" "Exactly?" "Last night on the roof. When I asked if anyone would answer." "Answer what?" Taiho looked down. "I just wanted someone to talk to. Someone who wouldn't think I'm weird." Hana pulled her son into a hug. "Oh, Taiho, you're not weird. You're special. Your brain works differently, that's all." "But what if it's real?" He whispered against her shoulder. "What if something really is trying to talk to me?" Before Hana could answer, the colony's alert system blared to life. The sound was deafening inside their small home. "Attention all colonists," came Administrator Hyun's voice over the speakers. "Our long-range sensors have detected an anomaly approaching our system. This is not a drill. All non-essential personnel should return to their homes immediately. Essential personnel report to your emergency stations." June burst through the door moments later, his mining uniform still covered in dust. "Hana, they're calling all research staff to the command center. Something big is coming." "What is it?" she asked, already reaching for her work tablet. "They don't know," June replied, his voice tense. "But it's massive and moving fast. Too fast for any known propulsion system." Taiho felt the humming grow stronger, filling his entire body now. Without thinking, he walked to the window and looked up at the dome covering their section of the colony. Beyond the transparent barrier, the stars seemed to shift and move. "They're coming," he said softly. His parents turned to him, startled. "Who's coming, Taiho?" his father asked. Taiho pressed his hand against the window, a smile spreading across his face despite the alarms and his parents' fear. "The ones who heard me," he said. "The dragons from between the stars." And somewhere in the void beyond New Busan, ancient eyes opened for the first time in millennia, drawn by the pure, unafraid call of a human child who had reached out into the darkness and found something reaching back. Deep in the cold emptiness of space, something stirred. Sung had been asleep for 3,000 years. His massive body, nearly as long as a small moon, drifted between star systems covered in scales that shimmered with faint blue light. He was the oldest of the Dracones, the beings that humans would call space dragons if they knew such creatures existed. Sung's mind slowly woke up. It was like coming out of a deep dream. At first, he couldn't remember why he had awakened. Then he felt it again, a small voice, a child's voice, somehow reaching across the vast darkness. "Help me." "Is anyone there?" The voice was not speaking words. It was sending feelings, emotions, and loneliness. Somehow this human child had accidentally tapped into the ancient network that the Draconis had built long ago to talk to each other across space. Sung had not heard such a call in thousands of years. The Draconis had left the younger races behind, choosing to sleep in the void rather than interfere with their development. But this voice, it was pure, innocent, and very, very alone. "I hear you, small one," Sung thought back, unsure if the child could understand. Around him, other Draconis began to wake. Un, with scales that glowed soft green, was the keeper of their history. Day, whose body was dark blue with white spots like stars, could move faster than light itself. And Jin, the youngest, whose red-gold scales flickered like flame, was barely 1,000 years old. A child by their standards. "The human calls to us," Sung told the others. "For the first time since we left." "We should not answer," Yoon cautioned. "We agreed to let them grow on their own." "But the child is special," Jin argued. "He can hear us. None have done that before." Sung considered this. The Draconis had once watched over many young species in the galaxy. They had guided and protected them, but their power had grown too great. Some Draconis had begun to see themselves as gods. To prevent this corruption, they had chosen exile, a long sleep far from the developing worlds. "I will go," Sung decided. "I will see this child who can hear our thoughts." "We will come with you." The others agreed, their massive bodies beginning to move through space. Together, they turned toward the small colony world where a boy named Taeho was looking up at the stars. On New Busan, chaos had taken over. The colony's alarms continued to blare as people rushed to emergency stations. Taeho stood with his parents in the command center, where Administrator Hyun was trying to make sense of the sensor readings. "Whatever it is, it's slowing down," reported Officer Kang, who monitored the colony's defense systems. "It will reach our orbit in approximately 2 hours. Is it a ship?" Administrator Hyun asked, his face tight with worry. "No known design," Officer Kang replied. "And the size? It's enormous. Our sensors estimate the largest object to be nearly 1 kilometer in length." Gasps filled the room. Nothing that large should be able to move so fast. Hana kept her arm around Taeho's shoulders. As a xenobiologist, she had been called to the command center to offer any insights on whether this could be a living organism. June stood nearby, ready to help organize the miners if evacuation became necessary. "Taeho," Hana said quietly, "what did you mean when you said the dragons from between the stars?" Taeho's eyes were unfocused, as if he was listening to something no one else could hear. "They've been asleep for a long time," he said. "But they heard me when I called out. They're coming to see me." Administrator Hyun overheard this. "What is the boy talking about?" "He's been experiencing some unusual sensations," Hana explained carefully. "Started last night. He described it as feeling like a song or vibrations." "Right before our sensors detected the anomaly," Officer Kang noted, looking at Taeho with new interest. "You think my son is connected to whatever is approaching us?" June asked defensively. Before anyone could answer, Taeho stepped forward and pointed at the main screen showing the sensor readings. "That's Sung," he said, indicating the largest object. "And Yoon, Dae, and Jin," he added, pointing to 3 smaller but still massive objects following the first. The room fell silent. "How do you know their names?" Administrator Hyun asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "They told me," Taeho said simply. "They're talking to me right now." Dr. Min, the colony's chief medical officer, stepped forward. "The boy could be experiencing hallucinations. We should run some tests." "There's no time for that," Administrator Hyun said. "If there's even a small chance he can communicate with these beings, we need to use that." Hana pulled her son closer. "He's just a child. A child who might save us all if these things are hostile," Officer Kang pointed out. Taeho looked up at his mother. "They're not hostile, Mom. They're curious. They want to know how I can hear them when no human has ever done it before." "Can you ask them what they want?" Administrator Hyun asked, kneeling to meet Taeho at eye level. Taeho closed his eyes for a moment. The adults watched in tense silence. When he opened his eyes again, he smiled. "They want to meet us. They used to watch over humans and other species, but they left a long time ago because they were afraid of becoming too powerful." "Watching over us? Like gods?" Dr. Min asked skeptically. "More like guardians," Taeho explained. "They're very old and very wise. They've seen stars born and die." Administrator Hyun stood up and faced the room of colony officials. "I'm making a decision. We will not treat this as a hostile approach. We will prepare for first contact." "Sir," with all due respect, Officer Kang protested, "we're basing this on the word of an 8-year-old boy." "An 8-year-old boy who knew about these beings before our sensors did," Administrator Hyun countered. "Besides, if they wanted to harm us, why slow down? Why not just ram into our colony at full speed?" The logic was hard to argue with. Reluctantly, the colony's leadership began preparing for the arrival of the unknown visitors. As the Draconis approached the small human colony, Sung reached out with his mind to the boy who had called them. "We are coming, Tae-ho." "Do not be afraid." "I'm not afraid," came the boy's reply, surprisingly clear. "But the others are. They don't understand." "Understanding will come," Sung assured him. "We have been gone too long. It is time to renew old bonds." Jin, the youngest dragon, moved closer to Sung. "The boy's mind is strong for a human. How can he hear us so clearly?" "Some humans are born with special gifts," Sung explained. "In the ancient days we called them star-touched. They were rare then. They must be even rarer now." As they entered the star system, the dragons slowed their movement. They did not want to frighten the humans more than necessary. They could sense the colony's primitive detection systems trying to understand what they were. "They see us as objects, not beings," Yoon observed. "They have forgotten so much." "They will remember," Sung replied, "or they will learn anew." The four massive creatures approached the small planet where New Busan colony clung to the surface like a tiny metal flower. To human eyes, they would appear as enormous serpentine forms with scales that glowed with inner light, moving through space without ships or protection. "Tae-ho," Sung called. "We are here. Will you come to meet us?" In the command center, Tae-ho suddenly stood straighter. "They're here," he announced. "They want to know if I'll come meet them." "Absolutely not," June said immediately. "It's too dangerous. They won't hurt me," Tae-ho insisted. "They've come a long way because they heard me calling." Administrator Hyun looked at the main screen, which now showed visual images of the approaching entities. They were unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Massive, serpentine creatures that seemed to swim through space itself, their bodies covered in scales that glowed with different colors. "Those are dragons," someone whispered in awe. "They need to meet me outside the dome," Tae-ho said. "They can't come inside." "They're too big." Hana and June exchanged worried looks. "I'll go with him," Hana decided. "If these beings wanted to harm us, they could have done so already." Administrator Hyun nodded slowly. "We'll set up a controlled meeting point at the eastern airlock. Full environmental suits." "Of course." As preparations began, Tae-ho stood quietly, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as if he could see through it to the beings waiting above. "They've been alone for so long," he whispered to himself, "just like me." The eastern airlock of New Busan colony was never meant for historic meetings. It was a simple metal door that led to the planet's rocky surface. Today it was surrounded by nervous colony officials, scientists, and security personnel. Tae-ho stood between his parents wearing a child-sized environmental suit. The helmet felt too big for his head, but the safety seals were secure. His mother checked his oxygen levels for the third time. "Remember," Hana said, her voice tight with worry, "if anything feels wrong, we come straight back inside. No arguments. They won't hurt us," Tae-ho repeated. He had been saying this for hours, but the adults remained nervous. Administrator Hyun approached them. "We're ready. The security team will go out first, then you three. Stay within the marked safe zone." June nodded grimly. He had insisted on coming despite not having any official role in the meeting. "No one's facing space dragons without me if my son is involved," he had declared. The airlock cycled open. 6 security officers stepped out first, their boots crunching on the rocky ground. Tae-ho and his parents followed, walking slowly in the planet's lighter gravity. The sky above them was clear. New Busan's thin atmosphere allowed for excellent visibility of the stars, and of the 4 massive shapes now hovering above the colony. "Oh my God," June whispered, stopping in his tracks. The dragons were more beautiful than any image could capture. Sung, the largest, was nearly a kilometer long, his body covered in scales that shimmered with blue light. He moved through the air as if swimming, his long body undulating gently. Behind him, the other 3 dragons hovered. Yoon with her green glow, Dae's dark blue form dotted with white spots, and Jin, whose red gold scales flickered like flames. "They're magnificent," Hana said, her scientific mind momentarily overwhelmed by pure wonder. Tae-ho stepped forward ahead of the security team. No one tried to stop him. They were all too stunned by the sight above them. "We greet you, Tae-ho of New Busan," Sung's voice resonated in the boy's mind. "And we greet all humans who have come to witness." Tae-ho realized with surprise that everyone could hear Sung now. The adults around him gasped and looked at each other in shock. "Hello, Sung," Tae-ho said aloud. his voice small but clear through his suit's communication system. "Thank you for coming." The great dragon lowered his massive head until it was perhaps 50 meters above the ground, still far above them, but close enough that they could see the intricate patterns in his scales and the gentle glow of his eyes. "We have been away too long," Sung continued, his thoughts reaching all of them now. "Once we knew your kind well. We watched your first steps among the stars." Administrator Hyun stepped forward, standing beside Tai-ho. "I am Hyun, administrator of this colony. We had no knowledge of your existence. That was our choice," came another voice, Yoon, the keeper of memories. Her thoughts felt different from Sung's, carrying echoes of ancient knowledge. "We withdrew from the younger races when we feared our power would corrupt us." "Younger races?" Hana asked. "There are others besides humans?" "Many," Yoon confirmed. "Some you have yet to meet, some you never will. The galaxy is vast and full of life." The security team had lowered their weapons, clearly recognizing that they would be useless against such beings. One by one, the colony staff began to relax, their initial fear giving way to amazement. Day moved closer, his star-speckled form blocking out a portion of the sky. The child called to us across the void. A rare gift. In ancient times, we called such humans star-touched. "How did you hear me?" Taeho asked, looking up at the massive creatures without fear. "I was just sitting on our roof." Jin, the youngest dragon, drifted down beside Sung. His thoughts felt warmer, more energetic. "Your mind has a special pattern. It can connect to the network we built long ago to speak across the stars. Most humans lost this ability as they evolved. So I'm different?" Taeho asked, suddenly understanding why he had always felt out of place. "You are special," Jin corrected. "A bridge between your kind and ours." Administrator Hyun cleared his throat. "Why have you come now after being gone for so long?" Sung's massive head tilted slightly as if considering the question. The boy's call was pure, without fear or demand. It reminded us of what we once valued in our relationship with younger species. Curiosity, wonder, the desire to learn and grow together. "And what do you want from us now?" Jun asked, his protective instincts still on high alert. "Want?" Eun's thoughts carried a hint of amusement. "We need nothing from humans. We have come to offer, not to take." This statement caused a stir among the colony officials. Dr. Min stepped forward. "Offer what exactly?" "Knowledge," Dezung replied simply. "Guidance, if you wish it. Friendship, certainly." Taeho smiled inside his helmet. "I knew you were friendly," he said. "I could feel it." Jin's massive form dipped lower, his golden-red scales brightening. "You understood us better than any human has in millennia, young Taeho." As the conversation continued, more colonists emerged from the airlock, drawn by reports of the peaceful exchange. Soon, nearly 100 people stood on the planet's surface, gazing up at the dragons in wonder. Su-bin, Taeho's classmate, pushed through the crowd until she reached him. "You were right," she exclaimed. "Real space dragons?" Taeho nodded, feeling for the first time that he wasn't alone in his excitement. "They're called the Draconis," he explained. "They're very old and very wise." "Can they all hear us thinking?" Su-bin asked, looking up nervously. "We respect privacy," came Day's gentle thought. "We hear only what is directed to us or what is broadcast with strong emotion." Su-bin's eyes widened. "That's amazing," she whispered. Administrator Hyun had been conferring with his staff. He approached the front of the group again. "We would be honored to learn from you," he said formally. "But I must ask, why did you leave in the first place? You mentioned fear of corruption?" A shadow seemed to pass over Sung's massive form. "Power can change even the most noble intentions. Some of our kind began to see themselves as gods to be worshipped, not guardians to guide. We chose exile rather than risk becoming tyrants." "A wise choice," Hana said. "Few beings would give up power voluntarily." "It was not easy," Yin admitted, "but necessary. We have watched from afar as humanity has grown. You have made mistakes, but also shown great potential." "And now?" Jun asked. "What happens now?" Sung's enormous eyes, glowing like blue stars, seemed to focus on Taeho. "That depends partly on you, humans of New Busan, and partly on this young one who called to us." Taeho felt everyone looking at him. For once, being the center of attention didn't make him uncomfortable. "I think we should be friends," he said simply. "We can learn from each other." Jin's thoughts carried a feeling like laughter. Wisdom from the mouth of a child. This is why we have returned. Administrator Hyun nodded slowly. We would need to contact Earth, establish protocols for communication and exchange of information. Of course, Sung agreed. We have waited thousands of years. We can wait a little longer for proper introductions. As the adults began discussing logistics, Taeho felt a special thought directed only to him from Jin. You are brave, star-touched child. Few would have welcomed strange voices in their mind. I was lonely, Taeho admitted privately. I always felt different. Different is not bad, Jin replied. Different is how new things begin. As the sun began to set on New Busan, casting long shadows across the rocky ground, humans and dragons continued their historic first meeting. News was already being transmitted to Earth and other colonies. Space dragons were real, and they had come in peace, awakened by a boy's lonely call. Taeho stood between his parents, watching the massive beings hover against the darkening sky. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged exactly where he was. Thank you for answering, he whispered to the dragons. Thank you for calling, came their unified reply. 3 weeks had passed since the dragons arrived at New Busan. The small colony had transformed completely. Ships from Earth and other human settlements arrived daily, bringing scientists, government officials, and curious visitors. New buildings sprouted around the original dome, and a special communication center was built specifically for meetings with the Draconis. Taeho's life had changed, too. Once the strange, quiet boy that others avoided, he was now at the center of humanity's most important first contact. Scientists studied his brain patterns, trying to understand his special ability to connect with the dragons. Important people wanted to talk to him. Some even asked for his autograph. How are you feeling about all this? Hana asked her son one morning as they walked to the new communication center. She worried about the pressure on him. It's okay, Taeho said with a small smile. Jin helps me when it gets too much. Jin, the youngest of the dragons, had formed a special bond with Taeho. While Sung met with human leaders and Yoon shared historical knowledge with scientists, Jin spent time teaching Taeho about the Draconis and their history. The communication center was a large, dome-shaped building with a transparent roof. Inside, special equipment helped translate the dragon's thought speech for humans who couldn't hear it naturally. Today, the center was packed with people. Earth's top officials were visiting for an important announcement. There you are, Administrator Hyun said when he spotted Taeho and Hana. The Earth delegation is ready. Sung has requested your presence, Taeho. They followed Administrator Hyun to the main chamber. Jun was already there, looking uncomfortable in formal clothes. He worked now as a liaison between the miners and the scientific team studying the dragons. Through the transparent roof, Taeho could see all 4 dragons hovering above the building. Their massive bodies cast moving shadows across the room as they slowly circled. Ladies and gentlemen, announced Director Park, who had arrived from Earth to lead the diplomatic mission, today marks a historic moment in human history. After 3 weeks of preliminary discussions, the Draconis have offered to share knowledge that could transform our civilization. Excited whispers filled the room. Taeho felt a familiar touch in his mind. Are you ready, young friend? Jin asked privately. I think so, Taeho replied in his thoughts. He had gotten better at directing his mental messages to specific dragons. Sung's massive head lowered until it was visible through the transparent roof. His blue scales shimmered in the morning sunlight. Humans of Earth and New Busan, his thoughts reached everyone in the room. We have observed your progress and your struggles. You stand at a crossroads in your development. The room fell silent. Even the most important officials from Earth seemed small in the presence of the ancient dragon. We offer you knowledge in 3 areas. Sung continued. First, the means to heal your homeworld's damaged ecosystems. Second, sustainable methods to expand throughout the stars without depleting resources. Third, a deeper understanding of your place in the galactic community. Director Park stepped forward. This is incredibly generous. What do you ask in return? Yoon's green form appeared beside Sung. We ask 3 things in return. First, that you use this knowledge for harmony, not dominance. Second, that you share it fairly among all humans. Third, that you respect the development of other young species you may encounter. Some officials frowned at these conditions. A tall woman in a military uniform whispered to Director Park, who nodded before addressing the dragons again. Some of our leaders are concerned about the second condition, he said carefully. Different nations have different interests and security concerns. We understand human politics, Sung replied, his thoughts carrying a hint of sadness. But the knowledge we offer cannot be weaponized or used for advantage over others. It is meant to elevate all or none. Taeho listened to the adults argue back and forth. They used big words and complicated ideas, but he understood the simple truth beneath it all. The dragons wanted to help everyone, not just some people. I have a question, Taeho said suddenly, his voice cutting through the debate. All eyes turned to him. His father looked worried, but his mother nodded encouragingly. Why did you choose now to share this knowledge? Taeho asked, looking up at Sung. You said you've been watching us for a long time. Sung's enormous eyes seemed to focus directly on the boy. A wise question. We have watched humanity develop technology that could either save or destroy you. You stand at a tipping point. And then you called to us, Taeho. Your call was pure, without agenda. It reminded us of our purpose. Jin moved into view, his golden red scales bright against the blue sky. We believe in humanity's potential, but potential without guidance can lead to harm. The debate continued for hours. Taeho grew tired of the adult talk and slipped outside. The colony had built a small observation platform where people could look up at the dragons more easily. He sat there alone, watching Jin circle lazily above. They argue much for beings with such short lives, Jin commented, aware of Taeho's presence. Adults always argue, Taeho replied. They think it's important. Sometimes it is, Jin acknowledged. But sometimes the simplest path is best. Subin found Taeho on the platform. In the weeks since the dragon's arrival, she had become his close friend. Unlike the other children who just wanted to hear about the dragon, Subin was genuinely interested in Taeho himself. Are they still talking? She asked, sitting beside him. Yes, Taeho sighed. The Earth people want the knowledge, but they don't want to share it equally. Subin frowned. That's not fair. The dragons came because of you, and you're not even from Earth. It's complicated, Taeho said, repeating what his mother often told him. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Jin's massive form glide through the clouds. After a while, Subin spoke again. My mother says the dragons have changed everything. Not just science and stuff, but how we think about ourselves. Taeho nodded. Jin says that's the most important gift they can give us. A new perspective. Inside the communication center, the debate had reached a critical point. Director Park called for Taeho, but no one could find him. Finally, Hana suggested checking the observation platform. When they found him with Subin, Director Park looked annoyed, but Administrator Hyun just smiled. Taeho, the dragons are asking for you. They say they won't continue the discussion without you present. Back in the main chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Earth officials stood on one side, colony representatives on the other. All 4 dragons now hovered above the transparent roof, their massive bodies blocking much of the sky. Taeho, Director Park said when the boy entered, the dragons insist that you should have a say in this decision. While we respect your unique connection to them, you must understand that this is a matter for adult leaders to... The boy called us across the stars. Sung interrupted, his thoughts firm. His voice will be heard. Taeho looked around at all the important adults watching him. He took a deep breath. I think the dragons are right. Knowledge that can help everyone should be shared with everyone. It's not that simple, a woman in a business suit argued. Some nations have different values, different systems. Then maybe those need to change too, Taeho said simply. The dragons changed their whole way of life when they realized it wasn't right. They left because they were afraid of becoming bad. Can't we be that brave too? The room fell silent. Jun put his hand on his son's shoulder, pride clear on his face. From the mouth of a child, Yoon's thoughts carried a feeling like a smile. This is why we returned. Slowly, the Earth officials began to nod. Director Park stepped forward. Perhaps we have been overthinking this. The boy is right. If ancient beings like the Draconis can change their ways for the greater good, so can we. As the sun set on New Busan, a historic agreement was signed. The dragons would share their knowledge with all of humanity, and humans would promise to use it wisely. Outside, Taiho stood with his parents and Subin, watching Jin's golden form glow against the darkening sky. "What happens next?" Subin asked. Taiho smiled. "Everything changes." 5 years passed quickly on New Busan. The small mining colony had grown into a thriving center of human and Draconis cooperation. New buildings with sweeping designs inspired by dragon forms housed research centers and schools. The once barren landscape around the original dome now bloomed with specially engineered plants that could survive in the planet's thin atmosphere. Taiho, now 13 years old, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive structure built in orbit above New Busan. From here, he could see both the transformed colony below and the vast expanse of space above. His reflection in the viewport showed a taller, more confident boy than the lonely child who had once called out to the stars. "Are you nervous?" Hana asked, joining her son at the viewport. 5 years had added some gray to her hair, but her eyes still shone with the same scientific curiosity. "A little," Taiho admitted. "It's a big responsibility. Today was important. After years of preparation, the first joint human-Draconis exploration mission would depart from Harmony Station. Taiho would be on board, the youngest human ever to venture beyond known space. Your father is still checking the environmental systems on your quarters," Hana said with a small smile. "I think he's checked them 5 times already," Taiho nodded. His father had initially been the most reluctant about this mission, but had eventually accepted that his son had a unique role to play in humanity's future. Outside the viewport, Jin's massive form glided past. The young dragon's scales glowed even brighter than before, patterns of red and gold shifting across his kilometer-long body. Jin would carry Taiho's special habitat module, a small ship designed to attach to the dragon's body for the journey. "Are you ready, Star-Touched?" Jin's familiar thoughts touched Taiho's mind. "Almost," Taiho replied, just saying goodbye to the station. In the 5 years since the dragon's return, much had changed on Earth and its colonies. The knowledge shared by the Draconis had transformed human technology and society. Earth's damaged ecosystems were healing, thanks to methods that worked with nature rather than against it. New energy systems provided clean power without harmful waste. And perhaps most importantly, humans had begun to see themselves differently, as one species among many in a vast living galaxy. Not everyone had welcomed these changes. Some groups feared the dragon's influence and the rapid transformation of human society. Others worried about becoming dependent on the ancient beings. But most people recognized the Draconis as friends and teachers, not masters. Taiho turned as the door to the observation deck slid open. Subin entered, wearing the same explorer uniform as Taiho. At 13, she had grown tall and confident, her natural curiosity making her an ideal candidate for the mission. "The final briefing is starting soon," she said. "Administrator Hyun is looking for you." Taiho nodded and took one last look at New Busan below. "It's hard to believe how much has changed." "Because of you," Subin reminded him. "You were the one who called the dragons back." "I just wanted a friend," Taiho said with a shrug. "I never expected all of this." They walked together through Harmony Station's wide corridors. The station housed over 500 people, scientists, engineers, and diplomats from Earth and all its colonies. It served as the main meeting place between humans and Draconis, with special chambers large enough for the dragons to position their heads near transparent walls for direct communication. The main conference room was already full when they arrived. Administrator Hyun, now the director of all human Draconis relations, stood at the front beside a large screen showing the planned expedition route. "Ah, there you are," he said when he spotted Taiho and Subin. "Please join us." Jun was already seated, his mining uniform replaced years ago by the blue and silver of the diplomatic corps. He gave his son a quick smile as Taiho took his place at the front of the room. "As you all know," Administrator Hyun began, "today marks the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship with the Draconis. The Harmony expedition will explore regions of space previously unknown to humans, guided by our Draconis partners." Outside the station's windows, all 4 dragons hovered in formation. Sung's massive blue form led the group, his scales reflecting the light of the system's star. "Each dragon will carry a habitat module with a small human crew," Administrator Hyun continued. "These modules have been designed for long-term space travel, with all necessary life support and research equipment. Taeho listened carefully, though he already knew all the details. He would travel with Jin along with Subin and 2 adult scientists. The other dragons would each carry similar teams. Together, they would explore star systems that the Draconis had visited thousands of years ago, seeking other young species and ancient wonders. As the briefing continued, Taeho felt a special communication from Sung, directed only to him. "You have grown much." Taeho of New Busan, the elder dragon observed, "not just in body but in spirit." "Thank you," Taeho replied. "I've had good teachers." The teaching goes both ways. Sung's thoughts carried warmth. "You have taught us much about hope and new beginnings." After the briefing, there was time for final goodbyes. The expedition would be gone for at least 2 years, exploring 12 star systems before returning to New Busan. Hana hugged her son tightly. "Remember everything I taught you about first contact protocols," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "I will, Mom," Taeho promised. June's hug was even tighter. "Stay safe out there, and make sure that dragon takes good care of you." "Jin won't let anything happen to me," Taeho assured him. "We're connected." The bond between Taeho and Jin had grown stronger over the years. They could communicate across greater distances now and share more complex thoughts and feelings. Other star-touched humans had been discovered rare, individuals with the neurological pattern that allowed direct communication with the Draconis, but none had the natural ability that Taeho possessed. The final hour before departure was a flurry of activity. Taeho and Subin boarded their habitat module, a sleek vessel that would attach to special connection points on Jin's body. The 2 adult scientists, Dr. Yoon, a xenobiologist like Hana, and Dr. Kwan, an astrophysicist, completed final checks on their equipment. "All systems ready," Dr. Kwan reported. Jin confirmed secure attachment points are engaged. Through the module's viewport, Taeho could see the massive form of Jin waiting outside the station. The dragon's scales pulsed with patterns of light that expressed excitement and readiness. "It begins, star-touched." Jin's thoughts reached him. A new journey for both our kinds. The habitat module detached from Harmony Station with a gentle push. For a moment they floated free in space. Then, with incredible gentleness for such a massive being, Jin moved beneath them. The module's magnetic locks engaged, securing it to the dragon's body. "Connection confirmed," Dr. Yoon announced. "We are secure." Subin grinned at Taeho from her seat. "Can you believe we're actually doing this? Riding a space dragon to explore the galaxy." Taeho smiled back. 5 years ago, he had been a lonely boy looking up at the stars. Now he was flying among them, carried by a being once thought to be only a legend. One by one, the other modules connected to their respective dragons. Sung led the formation away from Harmony Station, his massive body beginning to glow with the energy that would propel them faster than any human ship could travel. "Are you ready?" Jin asked Taeho. "Ready," Taeho confirmed. The dragons began to accelerate, their bodies creating a beautiful light show as they prepared for the jump to faster-than-light travel. From Harmony Station, hundreds of people watched in awe as the 4 massive beings and their human companions vanished into the depths of space. As they left the New Busan system behind, Taeho felt something unexpected, a response to their departure. Not from the humans they had left behind, but from somewhere deep in space. Other ancient minds were stirring, awakened by the return of the Draconis. "Jin, do you feel that?" Taeho asked. "Yes," the dragon replied. "Other guardians are awakening. The galaxy stirs once more." Sung's thoughts reached all of them. This is just the beginning. Long ago, many ancient species watched over the younger races. Perhaps it is time for all guardians to return. As their journey truly began, Taeho looked out at the stars streaming past. The lonely boy who had called out into the darkness had found not just friendship, but a purpose and a place in the universe. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, new voices began to answer.